This is Brian, screenfiles.com and review. And what I'm looking at today is 2022's Umma, directed by Shim and starring Sandra Oh. And I went into this movie with very high expectations. First off, Sandra Oh is a great actress, and she brings an energy, a vitality to everything she does. And second off, it was produced by Sam Raimi, who's a genre superstar as far as I'm concerned. That being said, Umma, Korean for mother, is not a great movie. And that's a pity because you watch it and you see potential for greatness, but it never quite gets there. And the reason I think that it never becomes as good as it could be is because thematically it tries to be more complex than it needs to be. In other words, there is way too much going on in this movie, and it feels very much driven by the writing, which is to say, things are happening not organically, but things are happening because someone wrote them to happen in a particular way. And that's a pity. So let's look at it a little bit. The movie revolves around this woman named Amanda, played by Sandra Oh, who lives with her daughter, and they raise bees to get honey to sell. Dermot Mulroney plays an owner of a general store who sells the honey for her. It's such a beautiful movie, so rich looking in terms of its photography and so on. Though, as I mentioned earlier, the problems start with the story. Also written by Shim. We come to learn that Amanda has an entire... First off, let's back up a little. Amanda is a really peculiar person in the sense that there is no electricity allowed in her home. She says it makes her ill. Her daughter, growing up with this, just kind of accepts it. She never doubts it, nor does she have any reason to. So Amanda lives a very isolated life with her daughter, Chris, played by Fievel Stewart. And as I mentioned, they don't have electricity, they don't have phones, they have no real method of communicating with the outside world, short of physically doing it, and they just don't. So they're very much on an island, and Dermot Mulroney's character being the only real contact they have with the outside world. We come to learn through the narrative that Amanda has no issue per se with electricity. The movie establishes early on that she was essentially tortured by her mother, and therefore she's eliminated certain things from her life. Contact with her relatives, electricity, friendship, beyond her daughter. This is a horror movie already, and there's no horror actually introduced. You have this extremely dysfunctional woman, played by, once again, Sandra Oh. Very well played by Sandra Oh, for that matter. Though, she is so strange, and her thought processes are so weird, and frankly nonsensical. Because think about it. If I were burned in a fire, does that mean I no longer will cook food with fire? It's kind of ridiculous. And I get the idea that the movie is exploring one woman's reaction to trauma, but it's such a silly reaction to trauma. I don't know who Iris K. Shim is, nor do I know the experiences she's had, but this character is ridiculous. That she would essentially imprison her daughter based on her own experiences is just bizarre. And to deliberately isolate her, there's a monster in this movie, and it is Amanda. And at this point, as I said, there are no supernatural elements in the movie. It's just her mother is so weird. And the thing is, as the movie goes on, nothing that happened to her mother justifies what she's doing right now. I mentioned earlier that Amanda's mother used to torture her. Well, essentially torture. She would grab an electric wire and then touch her daughter. If you know anything about electric current, it travels. So it would travel from her to her daughter to punish her for certain things. And the movie establishes that Amanda's mother went through traumas of her own. And in her powerlessness, she acted out on the person closest to her, which was her daughter, which was Amanda, which caused Amanda, when she became of age, to run away. But what the movie doesn't explain is, once again, why Amanda acts as she does. Why is it that she is isolating her daughter from everything around her, including other people? It never quite explains that. And later in the movie, well, I think about midway actually, Amanda's uncle finds her to let her know that her mother had died. Now this is where the supernatural stuff starts to kick in. Though, why is Amanda hiding from her family? Now keep in mind, when I say hiding, I mean she changes her identity. She lies to her daughter about who her mother and father were. The movie doesn't quite explain why this is happening. Because keep in mind, Amanda's mother and father are not Yakuza. They're not the mob. They're not this bunch of ruthless killers trying to hunt down their daughter. That is not the case at all. They're just people. They're not great people, but they're still just people. Why does she feel the need to go through these elaborate, bizarre schemes to not be in contact with them is confusing, to say the least. When she could just go, I don't want to see you again. I don't want you in my life. It's mind-boggling to me. The story becomes definitely supernatural when Amanda's uncle tracks her down and tells her that her mother died and he brought her ashes. This is where things start to get weird. But as I said initially, this is a movie that juggles a lot of themes. None of them very well. And it's a pity because, as I also said, Sandra Oh is a great actress. Fievel Stewart is a very good actress. Dermot Mulroney is underused, but a very good actor. But other than Sandra Oh, who also executive produced it, by the way, no one is given a chance to breathe and to really inhabit their characters all that much. It's just a confusing, overdone movie. And as I said, you could cut all the supernatural stuff, literally every single bit of it, and have a drama based on a woman who's trying to escape her past. It would be significantly better. Now the thing is, they would have to have a valid reason for her to be trying to escape her past in the manner that she did it in. Because as depicted in the movie, it makes no sense. And the pity is that the glimpse into trauma that this movie offers is sometimes fascinating and instructive, but the narrative goes in very odd places, and the movie could have been simplified significantly, which would, I think at any rate, made it much better. If you recall Alex Garland's Men from earlier this year, that's a movie that could have been interpreted numerous ways because it not only juggled numerous themes and ideas, but did it really well. Whether you like Men or not, I don't think it can be denied that it examined various issues from very interesting perspectives. Umma examines lots of issues, most of them revolving around trauma, but also most of them in a very odd, hackneyed way. It does not work. And by my reckoning, the sign that a movie is not working is that if I break it into pieces while watching it. Now keep in mind, Umma only lasted an hour and a half. I watched this movie over 3 days because it's not that engaging, despite some great performances. As a whole, it's not very engaging, and it's about the wrong thing. This should be a movie about a woman with mental issues, about a woman who has problems living in the real world and seeks to isolate herself from it, taking her daughter with her, and how that affects not only her, but her daughter as well. That is the movie Umma should be. It should not be supernatural, because there is very little point to it. When the supernatural events resolve themselves, Amanda as well as Chris, come to grips with their past. Though that could have also been done without all the supernatural mumbo jumbo. Umma was potentially a great movie, though instead of just treating it like it is treated through, I want to say 2/3 of the movie, they had to add a ghost angle, which by my reckoning ruined it. So what do you think? This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in review. Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow. Peace.